Assalamualaikum dear students. Today we are going to discuss what is the evidences for evolution. The theory of biological evolution make two very bold claims about the living creature. First, all living things on the earth are related. They evolved from a common ancestor. Second, the evolution of living thing is powered by natural processes, things which can be studied and understood. But is there really any evidence that these two claims are true? Yes, there are so many observable facts that so many different fields of study that the only way we can ever begin to talk about them is to group them into categories or lines of evidence. To keep things simple, here we all focus on the evolution, the first claim that all living things on the earth are related. We cannot tackle the entire tree of the life once. After all, there is an estimate of 8.7 million species alive today. So instead, we will focus most of our attention on one fairly small but fascinating branch of the evolutionary tree, cetacean. This branch include whale, dolphin, and Propoises. Biologists claim that all these creatures are closely related, that the entire group evolved from an ancient four-legged land mammals. Instead of talking about the world for let's look at the fact. We will start with a few from the field of comparative anatomy to the study of differences and similarities between living things. Whales live in water and from a distance they sort of look like a giant fish. A close inspection of the anatomy, however, tell us a very different story. The whale, just like the land mammals, but unlike fish, have a placentas and give live birth. They feed the milk of their young ones. They are warm-blooded, which is an extremely rare for the fish. And the whales do not have a gills. Instead, just like us, they breathe air with two fully developed lungs. Whales does not seem to have noses like mammals. Instead, they breathe through the blowholes coming out the top of their head. Some whales have two blowholes which almost look like a nostril, and the dolphin and the porpoises only have one. Surprisingly, if you look at their skull, you find the blowhole is split into the two nasal passages inside the head. Could it be that the blowhole is actually a highly modified mammal's nose? It looked like the same, but we will need more evidence to be sure. Many whales have hairs like land mammals. In this photograph, you can actually see the whisker of the baby gray whale as he rests his chin on the mama back. Strangely, whales have an arm, wrist, hand, and finger bone instead of their front flippers. Here's the photographs of these bones, the same, the bones that the bat, hippos, and the people have in their front appendages. One bones, two bones, wrist bone, and finger bone. The modern whale do have a back leg, but they do have a pair of strangely tiny bones where the hip and the hinged leg could be there. A picture of these bones from a blowhead whales. They are almost look like shrimped hip, thighs, and shin bones. And this one have ever been what will look like a deformed ball and socket joint between the hips and the thighs bone, just like the ball. And the socket joint in your own hips is this resemblance. A more coincidence are these real leg bones, perhaps the leftover from the whale's evolutionary history. Before we draw any bold conclusion, let's see if it's in completely separate line of evidence will confirm our suspicions. Embryology is the study of how the creatures develop before being newborn or hatching from an egg. Here we see a dolphin and a human embryo side by side at similar stages of the development. Notice that they both have what look like arm but leg buds. In human, the leg buds grow to become the leg. In the whales, they grow for a while but then stop efficiently fading away as the rest of the whale continues to grow. These are all photographs of the common dolphin at different stages of developmental notice. This and early with two nostril grooves on the front of the face, just like you had expect in a puppy or human. As the dolphin continues to grow, the nostril grooves migrate at the top of the head and fuse together, becoming the dolphin blowholes. So far, we have a multiple fact from the two independent line of evidences, comparatively anatomy and embryology, both telling us the exact same story. The history of the whale were once four-legged land creature with a fossil record act as a third witness confirming this idea. There are two species of extinct Basiloids whale. These creatures are common from the multiple well preserved skeleton. They appears to be have lived side by side 34 to 40 million years ago. In this photograph, we are looking down at the top of the Basilosaurid skull. This is not a model or a cast. It could be an actual bone which can be pulled from the ground. Notice that the nasal opening on the top of the head, like those of the modern whale, and not like at the end of the snout, like those of other land mammals. Instead, these nostrils sit right on the middle. This is an intermediate species, exactly the end of the evolutionary tell us we should find. At the back end of the Basilosaurid's body, there is a small or yet fully developed hip, leg angle feet, and we suspect they had at least three toed, though we have only found the bone for one. These legs are far too small for the walking on the land, but may have been useful for the mating or snatching away parasite and itchy skin. Evolutionary history tells us that the future we go in the time, the harder it will be to distinguish the whales from regular land mammals. Meet Mesetius. Scientists have found multiple well-preserved skeletons of this species, one of the which appears to be a pregnant woman. The hip bone of the Meatis do seem struggling enough to walk on the land, but this animal is considered to be a whale of many reasons. The skeleton have been found all among the fossil of the sea creatures. These short legs combined with the long flat fingers and toes suggest that they have a strongly swimmer with webbed hand and feet. Here we have a button side by the Mesetius, jaws and skull, and it looked at the dick side. Her teeth match those of the Basilosaurids whales we saw earlier. The unique structure for her middle ear bone, the bulb behind her jaws match with the Basilosaurids. The whale and the modern whale, Maceates, appears to be a walking whale. The fossil of many ancient whale-like mammals have been found, and the people continues to find more together. These fossils blur the line between the four-legged, the mammals, and fully aquatic, the whale, solidifying the ideas that the whale indeed evolved from the land creature. Now look at the fourth line of the evidence, DNA. The DNA molecules contain chemical code that act like recipes for the living creatures. Without even looking at the bone embryo's anatomy, the researchers can compare the DNA code of different living creatures to find out who is the most closely related to whom. The whale DNA have been compared to all kind of other animal, fish, sea lion, you can name it. So far, we have a closest genetic match to the pluggy, water-loving hippopotamus. This does not mean that the whale evolved from the hippo, but if the genetic finding is correct, the whale and the hippo both have evolved from the common ancestor that have lived roughly about 54 million years ago. At the first, the link between the whale and the hippo surprised the researchers. The whales are mainly carnivores. They eat the fish like they eat fish or some crustacean like hippos and are mostly vegetarian. A closely look, however, revealed that the hippo and the whale actually shares many strange features, some of which may have come from the common ancestor. The ancient walking whales, especially shaped ankle bone found in a hippo, and the closer relative of the hippos, just like whale, often give birth and even nurse their young underneath, and they both have a multiple chamber stomach, which is a common for herbivores and unheard on in fish eating mammals. They are both missing in the coat of fur. And here is some fun fact: the whale and the hippos are some of the only mammals on the earth that have internal testicles. So there you have a dozen of the fact from four independent line of evidence, all tell us exactly the same story, that the whale have evolved from four-legged land mammal, but the history the whale is in the only evolutionary history, and we could be able to work out we would from the fossil DNA embryology, many other lines of evidence from the bird wing. We are actually modified arms and claws. The bird evolved from the dinosaurs like ancestor. We can also clearly see from the bat wing evolved from five-finger hands, similarly to those of the monkeys and the shrews. We have found that the human shares a fairly recent common ancestor with the chimpanzees, that the mammals have evolved from the reptile-like creatures. Those reptile-like creatures evolved from the amphibian creatures, though like amphibian-like creatures evolved from the fish-like creatures, and the fish, if you go back far enough, shares a common ancestors with the segmented worm. So, to sum up all the things, the thousands of the observable facts from the completely independent field study are coming together to tell us exactly the same story. All living things on the earth are related. Thank you. I hope you like the video. Thank you for watching.